Held. Mit navn er Michael, jeg skal være guide, og det var sådan set bare det. Everyone sitting on the inside, you can open up the windows. It's easiest to do it at the top of the window rather than the bottom. That way you can see a bit more when you open them up. Usually you need to be two people to do it because they're a bit old. Alright. Alright, here comes the very first bridge. Take care in the back, sir, doing the selfie. Here comes the bridge. It's the lowest one in the trip.
You can sit here if you want.
Alright.
It's okay.
Alright, one down, 14 to go. We are in the rainbow-colored houses of Nyhavn, New Haven Canal, that we're sailing through right now. It's about 350 years old and it was dug up by sailors and soldiers. Back then we were trading with the whole world from Copenhagen, and the name itself, Copenhagen, in Danish means the harbor in which you buy stuff. And this was one of the main places where we did that. There was mostly sailors living alongside these canals. And for that reason, sailors, as you can imagine, 300 years ago, they mostly just liked one thing, that was getting drunk. So there was mostly just bodegas alongside these canals, and there was a lot of drunken sailors. Since the 80s, we cleaned up the place, which hopefully you can tell, and now it is one of the biggest tourist destinations in the city, where we serve one very important thing named smørrebrød. Can everyone say smørrebrød? That is the open sandwich of the Danes, the most traditional food. We talk about it at the end of the trip, but this is the place to get it. Nyhavns kanaler, som vi sejler igennem her, er en 350 år gammel kanal, der blev gravet ud af sømænd og sejlere og soldater for 350 år siden, for at få adgang til Kongens Nytorv, hvor der blev handlet fra hele verden dernede. Siden 80'erne er Nyhavn blevet opdateret lidt og lavet om til en turistdestination, for det plejede nemlig at være et sted med glædesfølelser og bodegaer med langs siden og masser af fulde sømænd. Men i 80'erne lige siden der har det været et af vores mest populære turistdestinationer. Selvfølgelig, hvor nogle af de ældste smørrebrødsrestauranter findes i landet. On your left, the first building coming up is the Royal Playhouse of Copenhagen, a theatre opening up in 2008 with the Shakespearean play Hamlet, which takes place in Halland, in the northern part of where we are right now in a bold castle named Kronborg. You might know the famous line, "To be or not to be," coming from that very play, taking place there. Det her til venstre er skuespillerhuset, som åbnede i 2008 med Shakespeares skuespil Hamlet i februar af det år, da det åbnede op. Det kendte Shakespeare-spil, som selvfølgelig tager plads i den nordlige del af, hvor vi er lige nu, i Kronborg Slot. On your right, we have a 300-year-old island. It's called Paper Island. There's been a lot in there. We've had 300 years ago, we built it, a bunch of cannons for the Navy. Then a bunch of paper warehouses, and now finally the most expensive real estate in the country, where a single apartment at the top of this pyramid cost about 10 billion euros. Det her til højre er Papirøen, en 300 år gammel ø, der blev bygget til at opmagasinere kanoner for militæret. I 1900-tallet masser af papir, derfor navnet Papirøen, men nu er de så blevet opkøbt den sidste gang og blevet lavet om til det dyreste ejendomsmål i hele landet, hvor en enkelt lejlighed på toppen koster 75 millioner kroner. The entire area on your right is called Holmen. It is 5 artificial islands made about 300 years ago to store the Danish Navy. However, in the 70s it was demilitarized and turned into a place of culture instead, where we educate designers, architects, filmmakers, actors, and basically anything to do with creativity and culture within. Which is why you also see the Opera Park on your right, restaurant in the middle, surrounded by all the 4 seasons of Danish nature. Det her til højre hedder Holmen, hele området. Det var 5 kunstige øer lavet for 300 år siden for at opmagasinere vores flåde dengang. I 70'erne blev det demilitariseret, og nu er det et sted af kultur, hvor vi uddanner designerarkitekter, musikere og kunstnere generelt herinde. Hvilket er derfor ind til højre, I kan se Opera Park, hvor der er en restaurant i midten, omringet af den danske natur. Right next to the Opera Garden, of course, on your right, the Opera House from 2000. Is it too loud, guys? Is it okay? All right. On your right, we got the Opera House from 2005. Henning Larsen designed this. He's a very famous architect. He built it a bit like an instrument, all the bricks to the side of the building, if you slap the bricks, they're going to play a musical tune, like a xylophone. And behind the main window, you can see a red color. That's the main auditorium, seating 1,700 people on the inside. Red color because it's made out of maple wood, same sort of wood we make violins out of. Her til højre, Operahuset fra 2005, designet af Henning Larsen, som har designet det som instrument, hvor man kan se alle murstenene langs siden af bygningen. Hvis man slår på dem, spiller musikalsk lyd, ligesom en stor xylofon. Og inde bag hovedvinduet, den rødlige farve, er hovedauditoriet, hvor der er plads til 700 mennesker inde i døre, og dækket i det samme slags træ, som man laver violiner. Now, in front of the boat, when we look in a straight line, you can tell on the horizon in our country there's not a lot of mountains to be seen. That's because we're the second flattest country on earth, only beat out by one country in terms of flatness, the Netherlands, in Holland. That's because we were squished flat by a bunch of ice during the ice ages coming from up north, and it turned us into the only Scandinavian country on earth without any mountains. As you can imagine, for the longest time, the Danes felt a certain type of way about this, so we finally did something about it in 2017. Ladies and gents, on your right-hand side, oozing majestically into the atmosphere, I present you to our very own man-made mountain, Kuppen Hill. This has been since 2017 our biggest middle fingers to Norwegian and Swedish neighbors to the north for all of the mountains they get to have, because on top of this one, we can do anything they can do on theirs. We can ski down it on artificial snow all days of the year. We can mountain climb off its side 83 meters into the air. And on the inside, we burn 530,000 tons of trash for green energy for 200,000 homes. We burn so much trash in there, we have to import more of it from the Swedes, which apparently have trash to spare. In 2010, to take it all the way to Shanghai, China, for an art exhibit, where we missed it quite a bit, so we installed a giant TV screen that's sitting right now, and did 24/7 live streaming of how it's doing in Shanghai. Love it very much, that is very true, sir. And then, one of the heads we found in the main station for some reason, but number 2 is still mysteriously gone. My money is on the Swedes. And I'm pointing you, sir, I'm pointing at the Swedes. They're over there to the north of that. But now, det her over til højre, Lille Havfrue. Hun har siddet på den der sten selvfølgelig over 100 år siden 1913, en gave fra Jakob Jakobsen, manden der gav os Carlsberg-bryggerierne. Han havde forelsket sig lidt i ballerinaen, der spillede Lille Havfrue på scenen, så hans idé og romance var at spørge, om hun gad posere nøgen for ham, så han kunne lave en statue. Det gad hun dog ikke, så hvad du i dag ser den Lille Havfrue bestående af, er kroppen af billedhuggerens kone, men kun hovedet af ballerinaen, som Jakobsen blev forelsket. Hun har været igennem meget, selvfølgelig en Lille Havfrue, fået skubbet knoppen af 2 gange og armen sader i 1 gang, men vi bliver selvfølgelig med at reparere hende, og hun sidder der så fint. Hun er sågar blevet taget hele vejen tilbage til Shanghai i Kina i 2010 til en kunstudstilling, hvor vi savnede hende så meget, at der hvor hun sidder i dag, installerede vi en stor fladskærms-tv, der lavede 24/7 livestreaming af hvordan hun havde det i Shanghai, indtil hun kom hjem til Danmark igen. Now, to explain a little bit about Sweden, Norway and Denmark, up there to the north where we pointed before, we of course have those neighbors. And if you've ever been stuck in the room with a Swede, Dane and Norwegian, you know we sound kind of similar. But it was just stealing mostly all of that fish. Now, there is no more colonies in Danish history, and they have been turned into private apartments, these buildings. But that is the not so pretty side of the penny of the 1700s, where there was a lot of colonialism going on. Derovre til højre er de indiske pakhuse, som er for de 3 kolonier, vi havde i 1700-tallet i Danmark. Og den længste højre er for de vestindiske øer, der er Karibien. I det midterste det gule er for Vare, handlet i Grønland, og til venstre det røde Guyana i Ghana i Afrika. I dag er de her blevet lavet om til private lejligheder, men det var selvfølgelig der, hvor vi handlede med de 3 kolonier i kolonitiden, det var størst. On your right, we have something called Amalienborg. It's 4 noble houses around a circular square. This has been since 1794 the houses of the royal family, the Danish one. And the very first house you can see with the flag is where the current king lives. The flag indicates he's home right now. Frederick X lives in there, 4 children, wife Mary. On the left, there is a different house with 5 chimneys. His mother, the ex-regent Margaret, she lives in there. At the very end, you can see a church, biggest church dome in all Scandinavia, and it's called the Marble Church. Go into it for free every day, and the guy who built it is Frederick V, the guy on the horse statue in the middle of Amalienborg. You go to him every day at noon, 12 p.m. if you want to check out the royal guards do a shift change routine right in there. Der til højre er Amalienborg, som selvfølgelig er der, hvor den danske kongelige familie har været siden 1794. Længst til højre med de 4 skorsten med et flag på toppen er der, hvor den nuværende regent Frederik 10. bor med hans 4 børn og hans kone Mary, og til venstre med de 5 skorsten er der, hvor hans mor bor, den tidligere regent Dronning Margrethe. Nede for enden har du en kirke, som hedder Marmorkirken, eller Frederikskirken. Manden, der byggede det, er Frederik V, som er statuen, man ser i midten af Amalienborg, hvor man kan tage hen kl. 12 hver dag, hvis man gerne vil se den kongelige livgarde lave deres vagtskifte. The city you're looking at was more or less doubled in size by one king. His name was Christian IV. And he doubled it in size in 60 years, where he sat on the throne, which is the longest of any region in our history. He was able to do that because this tiny country Denmark used to be quite big once. In the end of the 1500s, when he came into power, we had Sweden, Norway and last part of Germany, part of the Danish crown. And all that money he spent building up the city and going to a lot of war. But unfortunately, he didn't have a lot of luck in warfare, so he lost Sweden, Norway and last part of Germany, which is why we're this tiny country today. We talk about him and all those losses because we're about to go through a canal system that he built in about 1 minute. In here, we go through. I won't be speaking in the microphone, so you can get a rest for your ears for about 10 minutes. But the reason he built it is because he wanted to get some money back to the Danes. He had lost a lot of power and money, and his idea was to build Amsterdam's canals right here in Copenhagen to attract rich Dutch people from Amsterdam to move here, so we can tax them and get some of that money. His idea was to then just imitate their canals and hoping that would entice them to come. It was a cute idea, and it looks a lot like Amsterdam, but the Dutch apparently did not think so, so not a single one came. Instead, we just invited a bunch of Danish people, and we've been living in here ever since, for the past 400 years. We go through and just... Ladies and gentlemen, big hand for Kill! What a maneuver! Over here on the right, you can see a Christmas market with the lights. This has been here since mid-October. We really like Christmas a lot here in Denmark. One reason might be because we don't have a lot to do when it's cold and grey outside. But also, if you ask Danish people, then they're honest with you. They will tell our love for Christmas might come because we think we sort of invented it. Because we call it Jul, Christmas, but there was an old Viking ritual 1,000 years back called Jol, where they sacrificed goats and people to the god of the sun to try and get it back on the shortest day of the year. When the Christians came along, surprise, they found that to be a bit barbaric, so they asked us to stop. So we compromised with them a little bit and said, let's just say Jesus was born on the same day as we sacrificed goats and people, and then we continued doing it in secret without telling the Pope. Until finally we gave into the whole concept. So now what we do instead is we come back to Nyhavn, the rainbow-colored houses. In here, we had Hans Christian Andersen living, the famous fairy tale writer. The Little Mermaid, Ugly Duckling, he made all those. 157 fairy tales he made. Many of them he made in here on the right, where there's an apartment. If you want a photo of where he lived, it's number 67, after this boat that's blue and white, on your right. 3 windows across, yellow brown brick building. H.C. Andersen boede derinde til højre, nummer 67. Man kan se de 3 vinduer, der er lavet der, man kan have noget af det. He lived in here because at the end of the canal we have the Royal Theatre, so he would go there almost every day and get inspiration for his little place. H.C. Andersen boede herinde i Nyhavn i 20 år af hans liv, og han døde i 1875. Han boede herinde alene og ville gå ned fra enden af kanalen til venstre til Det Kongelige Teater, hvor han ville se teaterstykker næsten hver dag og få inspiration til hans mange eventyr og digte. Han lavede 157 eventyr, og vi kender selvfølgelig dem alle sammen som danskere. Here we go, folks! Under the bridge, the first and the final.